This was really amazing. I would even say excellent. You know, everything you saw here has been tested on me. I was in 10th grade when Tiger Lips started, but my first computer was a bit smaller than this one, and it was called Juku. Some of probably Estonians do know what I mean. And here we are. I would like to invite on the stage now the Minister of Education and Research of Estonia, Kristina Kallas, to tell you a little bit more about Estonian education and how it has changed throughout the time. Please.
It has indeed changed over time. When I was listening to this theater play about the curiosity, I remember I went to school in Soviet times and I was punished for curiosity. I remember that curiosity was considered not a thing the child is supposed to have. The child is supposed to follow the instructions of the teacher. And my parents were invited to school because the complaint was that she's asking too many questions during the lesson. Thank God we are not there anymore with our education system. But allow me 15 minutes to introduce you Estonian education system, because you do the school visits, and this is a context for you if you go and visit the schools. For those of you who don't know Võib-olla that much statistics, Estonia is a very small country. We have a population of 1.3 million. We speak Estonian language as the official language, as a majority of population speaks this as a native language, but we have other languages spoken in this country. The second largest is Russian, spoken by 25% of our citizens. This is the language they speak at home. And also Ukrainian, and Ukrainian language has become a second dominant language in this country over the past 4 years. We are EU NATO member, but we are also digitally governed. So 100% of our services that government provides to the citizens is online. So it's a digitally governed, fully digitally governed country. That's very important when we talk about education as well. We think we have a very good education system, but we have had a very bumpy road to what we call a resilience in education. Estonian education story started long before our state came into being. So we are the nation, maybe together with our colleagues from neighboring Latvia, that had education system first, and this education system was the one that gave birth to the state. So back in 16th century, under the Swedish king rule, we established, by the decree of the Swedish king, peasant schools were established. When people started going to the schools in 1860s, that was made comprehensive compulsory schooling. And under the Russian Empire, we were the provinces that had almost full literacy rate already at the end of the 19th century. So education system was very widespread. People had a high literacy rate. And that was a very good starting point for resilience in terms of the education attainment. Then came the Estonian Republic, the state. The state was created by the school principals and teachers and journalists and writers. So if in many other stories it was lawyers and traders who were the founders of a country and a nation, in our case it was teachers and school principals. Then in 1944, when Soviet occupation started, yes, there was an ideological replacement in our school curricula very strongly, but something else also happened. A parallel school system in Russian language was established on Estonian territory. So we had this historical Estonian schools, and then the Soviet regime also created a Russian school. This Russian school was run from the Moscow. It was not under the Ministry of Education of Tallinn. It was under the Ministry of Education of Russian Federation, with the Russian Federation curricula, with the teachers from Russian Federation, with the students immigrating from there. Everything was in Russian. And I lived in a small town in Estonia with 50% Russian, 50% Estonian population. We had those two schools in my hometown. I went to Estonian school, but we had this Russian school next door 500 meters from each other. I knew nobody from those Russian schools during my school years. We had almost no contact. They studied 10 years, we studied 11 years. We had a completely different curricula, they had a completely different curricula. So that's how the two parallel systems were established during the Soviet times. So when in 1991 the Soviet Union collapsed, Estonia had 100 of those schools in our territory. And we started step by step, slowly integrating those schools into Estonian education system. First, we took over the management of those schools from Moscow under the Tallinn Ministry of Education. We replaced the curricula with Estonian curricula, but the language remained Russian as a language of instruction. And for 35 years, this has been a story of long story of integrating those Russian schools into Estonian language of instruction and into Estonian education system. Now we are in a last phase, I hope the last phase of integration of those schools, and you will visit those schools as well. You can choose and see how they are doing. So in 1991, again, there was another interruption in education system where we had to replace Soviet curricula with Estonian curricula. We actually pretty much copied our very good neighbors, Finland. We just looked at your curricula and did what the smart thing you have done in your education, decentralized the education system by giving schools to run by the communities, because they were in Soviet system, they were run by the state. So it was decentralization, and also establishing very quickly new curricula. And in 1996, 1997, we started the Tiger Leap program, which you just saw on the stage here. Due to this fast reforms that we did in early 1990s, and also in 2000s, we already had a technology in the classrooms quite early, and our EdTech sector, education technology sector, started developing very fast. So this is our long but bumpy road to the education system that we have today. Estonia has a comprehensive education system. That means that from the age 1.5, where the preschool starts, it's not compulsory, but the local governments are obliged to provide preschool positions to each child who has reached 18 months, which is 1.5. It's not for free. There is a parental contribution, but it's very small. It's around 5 to 10%, sometimes maximum 15% of the cost. So it's very affordable. Preschool finishes at the age of 7, and then the compulsory education starts at the age of 7. We have an equity system, which means that equity-based system, children are assigned to the school that is closest to their address. So they go all to the same school based on their residence. Basic education is from age 7 to age 16, so it's 9 years. And there is a secondary education that is divided between general academic secondary and vocational secondary education until the age of 19. Actually, it's pretty late when kids graduate from the secondary school. And then there is a university education or continuous vocational education, bachelor degree, master's degree, and PhD. Just in numbers, it's very small, as you see. We have 484 schools. That's very, very small number of schools. They are mostly run by local governments, so we have only very few state-run schools. Local governments mostly means local communities that are running the schools. And also we have 28 VET institutions, vocational educational institutions, and in higher education we have 6 public universities and 1 private university, and 7 what we call applied higher education institutions, and 1 private applied higher education institution. It's a small education system. Due to its smallness, it's very agile. It's very quickly adapts to the change that is coming from outside. What we consider that is the 6 pillars of our resilience in our education system, why we are adaptable to the change from outside of the society, is those 6 things that we consider to be strength. First, the mentality, aim high and work hard mindset. Our curriculum is quite demanding, and it requires hard work, and that's what is expected also in school, that sometimes, of course, students complain, teachers complain about overload, but this is a strong basis of academic knowledge and skills learning is the way approach it, that aim high and work hard. We are very convinced and sure that the big autonomy that we have within our education system is a basis of the resilience of that system. Because when COVID happened and the schools had to adjust very quickly to what you just saw here, it was a little bit mess in the first weeks of schooling. But since it's a very autonomous system, the schools were very quick to adapt and to adjust to the pandemic times. They didn't have to wait for any instructions from anybody apart from school community coming together and deciding how to go. So we think autonomy is a very important part. Evidence-based and equity-promoting governance, the comprehensive school where equity, the fact that we don't see until age of 16 any division among children, whether in specialization or based on academic skills. They are all in the same comprehensive system together, and only at the age of 16 we are giving them the academic choices that they are based on their academic capacities and capabilities. Diversity, you will see also in school visits, we have a very, very diverse school network. We have schools where we have only 5 children. In some of the islands, we have schools, we have 2,000 children. We have schools that are community schools, public schools that use Montessori, and then we have schools that have a very academic rigor system. So they are very, very diverse, and the parents can choose the schools. And now, for me, the most important element, early childhood. We do really believe that the reasons why our 15-year-olds are really performing well in PISA tests is because what we do with them when they are 1.5 years old. What happens in a preschool and in early childhood. This is a fundamental part of our education system, and we are very, very convinced that this focus on self-regulation skills and social emotional skills in early age is building them strong foundations. And of course, digital technologies, smart and wise way of integrating digital technologies into the system. Yes, we are usually the first ones to do it, but we are not really rushing in terms of into unknown territories. We quite often have this balance and careful approach to the technology in the classroom. But because of the big autonomy of the teachers, they quite often are the ones that decide how they integrate technology into the learning process. We have several ongoing reforms. First of all, we are extending compulsory learning to upper secondary. Until this academic year, the compulsory schooling finished at age 16 with a basic education. Starting from this academic year, students have to continue after the basic education to the secondary level, whether this is vocational secondary or academic secondary, but they have to continue. We also have this transition to Estonian language of instruction in all Russian schools, or the former, let's call them former Russian schools. They have a very gradual reform where they have to go step by step, transiting into full Estonian language of instruction by 2033. So this is a long process with maintaining Russian as a mother tongue instruction lessons for the children whose mother tongue is Russian. Also for the Ukrainian kids, we are providing Ukrainian as a mother tongue lessons in schools because we think that mother tongue instruction is an important element of child's growth and learning. We have early childhood education, small reform because we had a parallel private system of early childhood education that was not supported by curricula and education professionals. Now we have joined private and public system into one system. It's publicly funded. It can be run by the private institution. It doesn't have to be public institution, but it's publicly funded system. So now that we widen the access to early childhood and introduced also revised new curricula. And then many other reforms on vocational education, AI Leap that you have already also heard from the president, and the teacher retention aspirations that we really have, but we can talk about this maybe later. I want to stress also in my presentation that we really feel also in Estonia that with the arrival of artificial intelligence, the humans have really been put under the evolutionary pressure. This is sort of pushing us to change the way we learn. in terms of what is the learning process, how we go through the school. Memorization is still also important. You have to know your facts, and you have to know your mathematical thinking and multiplication tables and percentages, how to calculate percentages. That's also important. Knowledge is important. But thinking, and we feel that it's not, the evolutionary pressure by the technology is not about the ability to run fast, read text or science, it's about to think. Think faster, think more systematically and more creatively, and education is under that pressure. So we have to change the way we teach and what kind of skills children acquire. And these skills of what we call higher order cognitive skills have to be acquired already on the earlier age than has been before, because AI is just pushing us to do that. So in Estonia, two things. First of all, our nature. You will see it around here. We brought Estonian nature to you into this building, just to you to understand how important that is for our own understanding and for our resilience as a nation. And our education. This is our two things that we consider that have always shaped our resilience through the times that have been very difficult sometimes for our nation. And as we said, our resilience in education comes from this evolutionary leap to consciously train many people as possible to be in this constant flow of higher cognitive skills, of deeper thinking, faster thinking, and already from rather early age compared to the previous centuries. So this is an introduction into the story of how we, what education system we have and how we see it. Thank you.